Part 6.
Oh dear, they cried. What an awful thought. Oh, you mustn't be frightened, the ladybug said kindly. We wouldn't dream of hurting you. You are one of us now. Didn't you know that? You are one of the crew. We're all in the same boat. We have been waiting for you all day long, the old green grasshopper said. We thought you were never going to turn up. I'm so glad you made it. So cheer up, my boy, cheer up, the centipede said. And meanwhile, I wish you'd come over here and give me a hand with these boots. It takes me hours to get them all off by myself. Chapter 12. James decided that this was most certainly not a time to be disagreeable, so he crossed the room to where the centipede was sitting and knelt down beside him. Oh, thank you so much, the centipede said. You are very kind. You have a lot of boots, James murmured. Yep, and I have a lot of legs, the centipede answered proudly, and a lot of feet. 100 to be exact. Oh, there he goes again, the earthworm cried, speaking for the first time. He simply cannot stop telling lies about his legs. He doesn't have anything like 100 of them. He's only got 42. The trouble is that most people don't seem to bother to count them. They just take his word for it. And anyway, there's nothing marvelous, centipede, about having a lot of legs. Poor fella, the centipede, whispering in James's ear, said. He's blind. He can't see how splendid I look. In my opinion, the earthworm said, the really marvelous thing is to have no legs at all and to be able to walk just the same. You call that walking? Cried the centipede. You're a slitherer, that's all you are. You just slither along. I glide, the earthworm said primly. You are a slimy beast, answered the centipede. I am not a slimy beast, the earthworm said. I am a useful and much-loved creature. Ask any gardener you like. And as for you, I'm a pest, the centipede announced, grinning broadly and looking around the room for approval. He's so proud of that, the ladybug said, smiling at James. Though for the life of me, I can't understand why. I'm the only pest in this room, cried the centipede, still grinning away. Unless you count the old green grasshopper over there, but he's long past it now. He's too old to be a pest anymore. The old green grasshopper turned his huge black eyes upon the centipede and gave him a withering look. Young fellow, he said, speaking in deep, slow, scornful voice, I have never been a pest in my life. I am a musician. Hear, hear, said the ladybug. James, the centipede said. Your name is James, isn't it? Well, yes. Well, James, have you ever in your life seen such a marvelous, colossal centipede as me? I certainly haven't, James answered. How on earth did you get to be like that? Very, very peculiar, the centipede said. Very, very peculiar indeed. Let me tell you what happened. I was messing about in the garden under the old peach tree, and suddenly a funny little green thing came a-wriggling past my nose. Bright green it was, and extraordinarily beautiful, and it looked like some kind of tiny stone or crystal. Oh, I know what that was, cried James. It happened to me too, said the ladybug. And to me, Miss Spider said. Suddenly there were little green things everywhere. The soil was full of them. I actually swallowed one, the earthworm declared proudly. So did I, the ladybug said. I swallowed 3, the centipede cried. But who's telling this story anyway? Don't interrupt. It's too late to tell stories now, the old green grasshopper announced. It's time to go to sleep. I refuse to sleep in my boots, the centipede cried. How many more are there to go, James? Well, I've done about 20 so far, James told him. Then that leaves 80 to go, the centipede said. 22, not 80, shrieked the earthworm. He's lying again. The centipede roared with laughter. Oh, stop pulling the earthworm's leg, the ladybug said. This sent the centipede into hysterics. "Ha ha! Pulling his leg!" he cried, wriggling with glee and pointing at the earthworm. "Hey, which leg am I pulling? Ha! You tell me that!" James decided that he rather liked the centipede. He was obviously a rascal, but what a change it was to hear somebody laughing once in a while. He had never heard Aunt Sponge or Aunt Spiker laughing aloud in all the time he had been with them. "Oh, we really must get some sleep," the old green grasshopper said. "We've got a tough day ahead of us tomorrow. So would you be so kind, Miss Centipede? Would you be so kind enough, Miss Spider, to make up our beds?" A few minutes later, Miss Spider had made the first bed. It was hanging from the ceiling, suspended by the rope of threads at either end, so it actually looked more like a hammock than a bed. But it was a magnificent affair, and the stuff that it was made of shimmered like silk in the pale light. "I do hope you'll find it comfortable," Miss Spider said to the old green grasshopper. "I made it as soft and silky as I possibly could. I spun it with gossamer. That's much better quality thread than the one I use for my own web." "Thank you so much, my dear lady," old green grasshopper said, climbing into his hammock. "Ah, this is just what I needed. Good night, everybody. Good night." Then Miss Spider spun the next hammock, and the ladybug got in. After that, she spun a long one for the centipede, an even longer one for the earthworm. "How do you like your bed?" she said to James when it came to his turn. "Do you like a bed hard or soft?" "I like it soft, thank you very much," James answered. "For goodness sake, stop staring around the room and get on with my boots," the centipede said. "You and I are never going to get any sleep at this rate. And kindly line them all up neatly in pairs as you take them off. Don't just throw them over your shoulder." James worked frantically on the centipede's boots. Each one had laces that had to be untied and loosened before it could be pulled off. And to make matters worse, all the laces were tied in the most complicated knots that had to be unpicked with fingernails. It was just awful. It took about 2 hours. And by the time James had pulled off the last boot of all and had lined them up in a row on the floor, 21 pairs altogether, the centipede was fast asleep. "Wake up, centipede," whispered James, giving him a gentle dig in the stomach. "It's time for bed." "Oh, thank you, my dear child," the centipede said, opening his eyes. Then he got down off the sofa and ambled across the room and crawled into his hammock.